Hi, it's Dan, RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Two-cup method. Someone had asked me about this. And the two-cup method, I don't know, I kind of got into it. I wasn't really sure, frankly, to be honest, what it was. But it actually tied into or coupled with something else that someone else had asked me in the past as well. And I think that kind of tied more into that dimension jumping and reality transurfing, right? I think the three of these things, at least from my understanding thus far, are really similar. So let me back up a hair, try to explain some of the spiritual mechanics. Now, you don't have to buy this. You don't have to agree with it. I'm just trying to give you some of the theory behind where these concepts come into play. So one of the most important aspects about this is, and I learned about this back when I first started studying about quantum physics, quantum mechanics, like back when I was very young, right? Like right around senior year in high school, super into it, loved it, still do. And I really started learning about multiverse, multi-universes, multi-dimensions, multi-versions of ourselves, right? So some would say for every single place in your life where you've had to make a choice, yes or no, up or down, left or right, the part of you that's conscious made the choice you made, and that's what you're aware of, and you're aware of those outcomes based off of those choices. But supposedly, there's another aspect of you, a different dimension, different reality, different whatever, parallel universe, call it what you want, I don't know, really. And that continued on the other choice. And they're conscious of that aspect of life. And what happens is as a soul, we get to understand all these different nuances about the experience of being human, about the experience of our lives and all the choices they presented and all the opportunities that came from it. We get to experience those on some level, and we get to co-create this with other people. So that whole multiverse, whole multiple concept is super important. So for a lot of us, maybe we're in an ex situation. This is kind of a common one, right? Maybe you got an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. Maybe you're trying to get a new job, whatever the case is, whatever the thing is that you're trying to manifest, love in general, right? One of the things that kind of happens is there's a reality right now where you've already met that person. There's a reality right now where you are now dating that individual. There's a reality right now where they've forgiven you and you guys are spending time together. That reality exists. There's a choice that was made at one point where you guys are still together. There's choices that have been made where you could have interacted again. There's been choices, right? So there's a reality that exists where you're together. Now, one of the benefits to this concept, right, whether you believe it or don't, but I'm just saying, it helps if you believe it, I guess, but from the standpoint of it kind of opens you up to the idea that it is real. Like a lot of us have a hard time saying, well, how do I act like it's already there? Or when Neville talks about how when you imagine something, how the very act of doing that is what creates it. And once you've done that, now it's real. And it is. In that kind of alternate reality place, it is real. And it's really an issue of connecting your reality path with that object. That's really kind of what's happening when it gets into this manifestation stuff. So where this dimension jumping, reality transurfing, and the two-cup method for that example kind of work out, is it's an attempt to kind of nudge you into that reality, And really the only difference between that reality and this reality is what you're conscious of, what you're aware of. So who's to say when you wake up in the morning, when your consciousness kicks back in, at least to the part that you're used to dealing with, right? Because we're supposedly conscious while we're dreaming and stuff at night, but there's a sleeping part of our mind that doesn't seem to remember all that, but supposedly it's very active at night. So that consciousness, that consciousness just shifts, maybe in the middle of the night, like I said, to that other reality. And suddenly that other reality is your reality. Somehow, during the shift or whatever, boom, you ended up in that reality. That reality has that which you were seeking. So it's really an issue of connecting with that reality, nudging yourself into that reality and changing this current existence into that one. So that being said, that being the foundation, what's the two-cup method? The two-cup method, like I said, I was excited to do this show because I think it's a pretty cool concept. Not personally done it, but what it dances upon, the mechanics that it's playing with, the aspects of magic that, it's not magic, some would say, but at the same time, this is actually kind of similar to some of the things you do in magic. You create energy into something or create an energy vortex, maybe with crystals or whatever, right? But there's these ways to actually manipulate energies into things and make those things helpful, right? So this is kind of similar. So with the 2-cup method, for those of you that are in a situation right now, right, that you're not happy with your situation, you're not happy with the person you're like, you wish to be dating someone, right? Or maybe back together with that specific person, trying to get that ex back, right? You're trying to get that ex-lover back and you want to be in that reality where you're still together, or that reality where you've got that newer job and you're making the extra money, or whatever your reality is that you're seeking. So you get 2 cups. And there's 2 versions of this, and I'll get into the differences, and I'll explain why I recommend one of them versus the other. But you get 2 cups, okay? 1 cup, you write your current situation. Maybe put a little label on there, whatever you got to do, piece of tape and write on it, whatever. You want to put a label on it that this is your current situation. So maybe you're bummed because you're not with your person. So that's kind of maybe your thing. Or maybe it's single, right? Maybe it's seeking love. I don't know. Whatever positive spin you want to put on it is a better thing. But if you want to say I'm miserable and depressed and lonely, and you want to put those kinds of things on there, that's fine. That it still exists as your current reality from your vantage point. On the other cup, you put a label on that represents the reality that you would like to jump to or switch to, if you will. Right? That reality, you're in love with that specific person, or that reality, I'm back together with so-or-so, or that reality, I'm in a relationship with so-and-so. Back together is probably not even a good way to say it, but it could be. But I'm in a relationship with so-and-so, or I'm in love. I'm happily in love. I'm dating someone I love dating, and they love being with me. Like, I don't know, you probably can't write it around the entire label. It just look like it's spiraled words, right? But put some sort of phrase in there, some sort of thing that kind of says, this is the ideal that you're trying to create. This is the reality I want to have. Now, here's where the difference actually occurs, and I'll explain why I think it's best to go the way we're going to go, and then I'll get into the next 6 steps, right? But they say to put water in the one that's your now reality, and they say leave the other one empty, right? Your future cup is empty. And there's a reason why they do that, and I get it. And then there's a reason why the other method exists, and I'm going to explain that, and here's why I think it's a better idea. When you've got energy attracts to water. Water gets energy. Energy, whatever energy you put into that cup, essentially while you're writing the label, while you're thinking about it, all the stuff that you're doing in the process of preparing that cup, even pouring water into it, is taking on that energy that you're focusing on. Right? So you're going through this whole process of focusing on the negatives of right now and how you're not happy and how everything sucks or whatever, right? Like, it's got to get better, right? So you're focused on that. And what happens is that water can actually take on that energy. And that energy in that water is not the energy you want in your future. So by putting separate water in the other cup, you actually create a positive energy in that cup, and that actually ends up benefiting. And the reason, it's good to mix the one from the other, like empty to full. But if you've put a bunch of bad mojo in that water and then you pour it into your now, you're polluting your now. So really, it's better to kind of keep them separate. And so this will make a little more sense when I get into the next steps. And I feel like I'm almost like, spoiler alert, but at the same time, it's a big deal that at the point of creating 2 cups, put water in both of them. Water that you can drink, mind you, in both of them. All right, so you're labeling both of them, like I said, your current situation and your future situation, right? Then you're going to sit with them for a little bit, right? You're going to think of how you feel now. So you're going to spend some time with that cup, your current reality. You're going to spend, a couple minutes, whatever. It's up to you. Just spend some time really understanding where you're at, the contrast that this is providing for you, certainly, but really focus on how you're feeling right now. Then you look at the other cup, your future, your reality that you're going to be joining, if you will, and you look at that and you start to really focus, how am I going to feel when all that's together? And you start imagining that whole scene. Again, you're noticing imagining mechanics are at work here, obviously, always powerful, but the part where you're really focusing on how you feel and when you have this new reality, the way you're going to feel at that moment is not only just creating an imaginal sense as well, but it's also energizing that water with that reality, with that energy, with that frequency. It's in there. There has been studies about how anger and things along those lines can actually affect water in different ways. Like they've done it with plants. There's a lot of weird studies. I mean, some people I could very easily say, well, they could pass it off as X, Y, or Z. Right, I get you. But a lot of interesting studies have been done in that regard. So you want to sit with them. You want to really infuse that energy of your tomorrow, what you're hoping to reality transurf to, or your 2 cups, your second cup. That energy needs to be what it's going to feel like when you're in this place that you're going to be shifting to, right? The reality that now you've got that which you currently don't feel like you have. So as you spend that time, you're going to be transferring that very interesting energy to that water. Now, once you've done that and once you've appreciated that, you're kind of, at that point, like I said, transferring that life energy. Then what you do is you take the cup that's your future cup, right? The one that's got the ideal reality, and you drink it. Drink every drop of it. You drink all that liquid, all that energy, all that substance. You consume, and basically, you're kind of putting that reality inside of you. Essentially what's going on. Again, this gets into some of the interesting aspects. Call it symbolic, call it, magic, not magic, call it whatever. But it's kind of getting into that playing with energy, and that's really kind of similar when you're using crystals and meditation and healing and all these different kinds of things. There's neat little energies that start to come into play. For those of you that haven't played with them, don't necessarily just poo-poo it outright. There's some really interesting stuff that's been done with energy and how energy works between us and objects and water and plants and the whole slew of things. It's fantastic. So once you've drank your future, once you've consumed this energy that you're going to, that you're heading towards, that you're shifting into, the lane changing, if you will, you got your blinker on and you're heading into that lane, you've consumed that energy. Remove the label off the old cup. Get rid of that label, burn it, shred it, destroy it, get rid of it, make it go bye-bye. You burn that, you destroy that, you kind of say, ashes, universe, I'm done with this, and you let it go, and then that new reality becomes yours. You merge towards it. Again, you could wake up as simple as suddenly your conscious mind's back into things, and you could already be in that reality. You don't need to repeat this frequently. This is something that you can really do. You really put the time into it. You spend 30 minutes doing this. You make it kind of a sort of an ordeal. You truly put the energy in it. You kind of are meditating on it. There's a level of depth to this one that I really, really think is cool. So some of that hopefully comes into play. But again, once you remove that label, destroy it, it's saying goodbye to that reality. That reality's gone. And this new reality is what I have now consumed, what's now inside of me. And from that, you actually create that reality. Now, again, it ties into some other wonderful mechanics, but the energies are there, the imaginal aspects are there, and the idea of understanding that you've already got it right now and kind of gives you a way to sort of believe that, if you will. Oh, yeah, there's other realities and dimensions, and totally, like, so it's already happening, and it's kind of like parallel. I don't know what that means. Like, is it on top of me, or am I inside of it? Is it inside of me? Like, how does that work? I don't know. But it exists. And when you can come to all those levels of appreciation and understanding, this actually becomes a very powerful technique for moving that energy. And this is, of course, is kind of more for, I think, the spiritually minded, the energy minded, the power that is behind the way energy transfers occur. Again, I've talked about Celestine Prophecies. It's in my links below in the books that I think are kind of cool. The energy transfers, that was one of the first places I really got into it. There's Greg Braden, I think, that has done so. There's a whole slew of people that have talked about the way energies transfer. But for me, it was, I think Celestine Prophecies was one of the first ones that really shifted my attention to it. It was like, oh, didn't even think of that. So that's kind of the big deal behind the 2 cups method, the reality transurfing, and dimension jumping, I guess, are some of the ways that people refer to this. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully you have fun with this technique, because it is fun, to say the very least. Stay on RadioStyle. We'll be doing more stuff. Subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate that always. Make sure you got the little bell, the little icon, right? The little bling, and then it'll let you know whenever I do new videos. And, then we'll keep us chit-chatting here in the future, which is always a good time. So thanks so much. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk soon.